you there was a quarterback that could spot a team, interceptions and fumbles, and still run them down like they running in quicksand. That would be Patrick Mahomes, sir. Yep. The Miami Dolphins turned Patrick Mahomes over. He had one of the worst first quarters, first half we've seen. They went up at halftime and then came out in the second half and continued to prioritize and bludgeon the Miami Dolphins, who's a really good defense. So now the man not only throws no-look passes, buys every damn thing he wants to, part owner of a team, but now he's spotting grown men points and then coming back to beat them. Patrick Mahomes.
I can't argue with that part of it. Marcus, it is remarkable that might have been the worst game he has played as a pro, and he threw for just under 400 yards. That's a bad day for Patrick Mahomes, Swagoo.
It's a bad day. And he said he had a love-hate relationship with that stadium. The love comes from the fact that I win. The hate comes from the fact that I have to do more than I usually have to do to win.
Yes, he won the Super Bowl in that stadium. I have a feeling he will love it for the rest of his life. All right, so we have got one vote right now for Patrick Mahomes. Let me go to Greg next. Greg, who gets your vote for MVP right now, Rodgers or Mahomes?
Yeah, I guess I'm going to die on this hill. I'm going Aaron Rodgers. He's better than Mahomes in touchdowns. He's better than Mahomes in interceptions. He has nearly a 10-to-1 touchdown-interception ratio. He's got a higher completion percentage. He does have fewer yards, but on 50 less attempts. Like, what other... and one more thing. He doesn't have two unbelievable players, the best respected players, arguably at their position in the NFL, in Travis Kelce and, of course, Tyreek Hill. So, do I need to keep going? Like, all those things lead to Aaron Rodgers actually having a better season than Patrick Mahomes, even though both are obviously great.
One wonders what it is in that thermos. Who is next? Jeff Saturday, who gets your vote?
Patrick Mahomes, man. The standard is the standard, Greg. I mean, like, what are we talking about? I mean, here's the issue. We talk about that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have the same talent at receiver. You know what he does have? He's got an incredible offensive line that gives him a lot of time. I don't care whose name is on the back of the jersey. If you got as much time as Rodgers does in me throwing lanes, he gonna get you open. It could be me out there. He's going to find a way to get it there. It's not that he's not having a great year, but in comparison, look, my son Joshua's favorite team is the Chiefs. They were down in the first quarter. My son was like, don't worry about it. We got Patrick Mahomes. We're going to take care of business. You got to go Mahomes, man. It's not even close.
Graciano, you're the only one of us who might actually have a vote in this thing. Who would get it?
I don't, but it would be Mahomes. I just think it's, look, Woj was in there. The Chiefs and Mahomes are like the Lakers and LeBron when they got to the bubble, right? Like, wake me when the games really count. And I think I could totally see a scenario where Rodgers beats out Mahomes for MVP, and Mahomes is standing there on the field in Tampa with the confetti raining down saying, I want my damn respect, even though just like LeBron, he already has it.
I've said it again. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Just rename it the Patrick Mahomes Award. Give it this year to Aaron Rodgers. All right, everybody stay with me. Much more from the NFL as we go. But we look ahead now to Conference Championship Weekend. Saturday is one of the great days in sports of this year. Let's start with this. The Pac-12. They've announced that Oregon will replace Washington as the North representative in the championship game to take on USC. That's because of COVID concerns for Washington, so that's a critical game. SEC title game. Florida, Alabama. 10th time the Tide and Gators have faced off for the title. No other school has even been to more than 8 SEC championship games. In the Big Ten, Ohio State back in the conference title game after the league decided to change its rules. They take on Northwestern, the Wildcats, in this Big Ten championship game for the second time in 3 years. And then the ACC championship game, as you know, has everything at stake. Clemson and Notre Dame, the Irish looking for their second win of the year against the Tigers. They cleared out the schedule for both these teams last week. Dabo Swinney addressed the criticism they received for that.
If the ACC was trying to really protect Clemson and Notre Dame, why would we even play the game this week? I mean, if 6 wins can get you in the playoffs, shouldn't 9 get you there? Shouldn't 10 get you there?
Okay, so there's that. There they are. Heather and Paul are with us along with Greg today. Let's start with that. Heather, what reaction? You heard Dabo defending it. How much reaction have you heard around the country to how the ACC handled that?
a lot, but the crux of it is because this is what happens when conferences are left to do their own thing, right? And the majority of the beef here isn't necessarily between the SEC, which chose to play, and Clemson and Notre Dame, which essentially had bye weeks. The problem here is the number of games. This is what it all boils down to. And Greg Sankey's point is the number of games should matter. That's what we were told. That's why we played. And Florida exemplified his concern, which is the more teams play, the more they risk, right? But then you have Ohio State sitting there about to play 6 games, and their point is, look, this is out of our kids' control. We had 3 games canceled. We didn't have anything to do with that. Look, it's 2020. Nothing's fair. Everyone needs to lower their bar for fairness this year.
I understand that completely. You're exactly right. For those who hadn't thought of it that way, Florida played this weekend, and someone throws a shoe, and now everything is in chaos. So, Paul, let me come to you on that thought. Put it all in perspective. No one lives in this stuff more than you do. Between Ohio State only playing 6 games and the ACC clearing the decks and the SEC playing, what is your big picture take on all of it?
Well, Ohio State's going to get away with it, Greeny, and you're so right. The SEC played that extra game, and it cost Florida. I mean, Florida right now is in a situation where even if they beat Alabama, they probably won't get in the playoff, and that's because they have lost 2 games because they played a quality schedule. And Ohio State has played a better schedule than maybe we're giving them credit for. I know nobody wants to support a team that only has 5 wins, but the Indiana win, and I think a Northwestern win is going to be enough for them. It's about the eye test, as Heather tells us every Tuesday and Wednesday, and they do need to look good. They can't slop around. A couple of years ago, Greeny, you remember, they were not impressive, and they got passed on the final day. They need to look like a top-flight team against Northwestern or else.
All right, so now you see all of the All-State playoff predictor, all the different chances that all these different schools have to get in. Now, as one who has been a talk show host for pretty much my entire adult life, I always root for chaos. Greg McElroy, you were giving me the scenario this morning in our meeting that would set off the chaos. What would that be?
If Notre Dame beats Clemson for the second time, then we know Clemson would now have 2 losses and be outside the college football playoff conversation. What that does is we know 3 spots are solidified. We know that Notre Dame would have one, of course. We know that Alabama, likely as a massive favorite against Florida, would be in. And then we know Ohio State, who's a massive favorite against your squad, Greeny, would likely be in as well. But that opens the door for 1 spot for 4 teams. One is the USC Trojans, who are currently undefeated and are playing in the Pac-12 championship just a few days from now. Texas A&M, who is sitting there at number 5 currently in the playoff rankings with 1 loss. We know that Iowa State plays Oklahoma. If they beat them again with 2 losses, they might have a legitimate argument to be the 4 team. And finally, the undefeated, potentially, Cincinnati Bearcats. That's 4 teams for 1 spot. We've never had, Greeny, in college football playoffs history. It's only been 6 years. This will be the 7th. We've never had a scenario in which 4 different teams had a legitimate claim to 1 spot. We've had a situation with 3, and we've had a few situations with 2, but this could potentially be the most chaotic selection day we've ever had if, in fact, Notre Dame does the unthinkable and beats Clemson for a second time.
Heather, you know how much I love this stuff. Let's live in that world. Let's live in a world where Notre Dame beats Clemson again. And you just heard the scenarios. What's the likeliest outcome?
My guess is the selection committee would go with Texas A&M. I say that because USC sitting there at 15, I think that they're good. They're not great. The committee realizes that. Look, Cincinnati being behind a 2-loss Iowa State team. Now they have a chance to punctuate their resume with a win against a ranked Tulsa team and win the AAC. Personally, I would put Cincinnati at number 4, but I think that the committee would go with the Aggies because they've almost put them at the number 4 spot ahead of Ohio State already.
How about you, Paul? What in that scenario, what do you think happens and what should happen?
Yeah, I think Heather is correct. I think they would put Texas A&M in their Greeny, and it would be the least popular choice for this reason. You would have a rematch between Alabama and Texas A&M, and for anyone who missed that game early in the season, Alabama won by 28 points.